Haloflayatu and welcome to a bulletin for BCN News. Leading our news tonight, the island was able to commemorate its 75th annual ANZAC Day on Monday this week, since the first commemoration started in Niue with the Niue RSA in 1947. Organised by the Niue RSA Committee, this year's National ANZAC service was forced indoors due to heavy rainfall and flooded grounds. But the tradition of the remembrance service proceeded. Here's more on that story. Every year, we remember the men from Niue who accepted the call to help the war effort. In 1915, as a small protectorate of New Zealand, the 150 Niuean men who chose to join the New Zealand Expeditionary Forces in the First World War will always be remembered. Their sacrifice officially made Niue a part of the ANZAC family. The three countries, Niue, New Zealand and Australia, were represented with the traditional speeches.
Today, we pause to honour, respect and remember the event that has given us our shared identity. However, this campaign was not just about Australians and New Zealanders. This campaign features Niue's history and national identity. Despite its remoteness and tiny population, in October 1915, 150 Niuean men enlisted in the New Zealand Expeditionary Force. Volunteers, men who represented a cross-section of Niue's society. The Niuean contingent provided reinforcements for the New Zealand Maori Pioneer Battalion in Egypt and then to combat the combat zone in France in April 1916. On this day, we remind ourselves of the sacrifice and contribution the men from Niue made. The 150 men who left Niue to serve deserve to be remembered. They are not forgotten or overlooked by the passing of years.
Representing the New Zealand Government Deputy High Commissioner Nigel Eales reflects on the sacrifice of the ANZACs, but also to remember that divisions and conflicts still exist today.
As Australians and New Zealanders and Niueans pause to mark ANZAC Day this year, our attention turns to the courageous actions of our service personnel and the sacrifices they have made across history. We take time today to remember the generations of all three countries who, without a guarantee of safe return, left their homes and families for shores unknown. While we reflect on their experiences, we should also consider the division that still exists in our world today and the enduring impact of war and conflict.
107 years since they left Niue in 1915, their sacrifice is still remembered, never to be forgotten, least of all by their descendants for generations to come. Lest we forget, we will remember them. At last year's ANZAC commemoration, the Niue government made a request to the Niue RSA to give the responsibility for the RSA to the government. The response from the Niue RSA this year is that for the past 75 years, the Niue RSA and the descendants of the 150 men have proudly taken the responsibility for the ANZAC commemorations and will continue to do so.
The representative of the Niue RSA, Mrs. Lalo Manungi Tungiakona, delivered the speech at this year's National ANZAC Remembrance. Mrs. Tungiakona thanked the governments of Niue, New Zealand and Australia for their continuing assistance and support towards the work of the Niue RSA over the many years. She also responded to the request from the Niue government made at last year's ANZAC Remembrance when the Minister of Social Services, Honourable Sauni Tongatule, said that the government would like to play a bigger role in the ANZAC commemorations. Minister Tongatule had used the example of the graves of the men who returned from World War I, but those graves have not been cared for. But Mrs. Tungiakona reminded the government that for many years the Niue RSA had asked for assistance from the government to build a kaina for the RSA, and still they continue to ask and wait, but that they will not want any changes to the RSA Niue for it to come under a government agency. On the News of the Week radio program last Friday, RSA Niue's President Charlie Tohovaka spoke passionately about the act of the 150 men and the mana that their actions brought for Niue, that their sacrifice put Niue on the world map. Tohovaka says that on a number of occasions when New Zealand dignitaries like the former New Zealand and Niue Governor-General Sir Jerry Mataparai and former New Zealand Foreign Minister Winston Peters visited Niue, they would say to him, "Charlie, let's go to your RSA for a beer," and how embarrassed Charlie Tohovaka was to turn them down because Niue does not have an RSA club. Charlie Tohovaka spoke of the pledge by former Premier, the late Sir Toke Talangi, for monetary assistance to start the project to build a space or a kaina for the new RSA, yet they are still waiting. At the ANZAC remembrance on Monday, there was no pledge from the government to help move with this project. It's understood that the government had wanted the new RSA to come under the Taonga Niue Department. Minister of Social Services Honourable Sauni Tongatule at the remembrance on Monday morning said that the government's offer still stands. What is evident, though, is that for the past 75 years, the Niue RSA has been the responsibility of the descendants of the 150 men who answered the call to war. And they are not going to give up that vital link that they have to their ancestors, whose sacrifice officially made Niue part of the ANZAC family.
After much anticipation, the UFO Hospital Isolation Ward and COVID Response Laboratory was officially opened yesterday morning. Premier Honourable Dalton Tangilangi and Minister of Social Services Honourable Sauni Tongatule had the honour of officially opening the significant buildings. Here's more on that story.
The program began with welcoming remarks from the Acting Director for Health, Dr. Waimanu Pulu, and the Reverend Kennedy Tukutama leading the blessings for the day. In his speech, a Minister of Social Services, Honourable Sauni Tongatule, says that the government is confident that with the opening of these two significant facilities, they have done everything they can do to better prepare Niue for COVID-19.
We have come a long way from preparing to isolate patients in hospital, great tents, to where we are now with a purposely built isolation facility, not just for COVID, but for any other infectious disease outbreak that may occur in Niue. We watch our countries around the world battle with COVID cases, which put immense strain on our health care facilities and healthcare workers. But today, we can confidently say that as a government and as a country, we have done everything that we can assure that our people have the best protection that we offer as the world lead to live with COVID-19.
The isolation ward is funded by the Asian Development Bank and equipment donated by and funded by agencies including the government of Japan.
This building cost us 500,000 New Zealand dollars. And I thank you, the contractors. I apologize to the dental board if I'm heavy-handed by pushing through with this building. As you know, we were given a certain time frame in order to utilize those funding. So let me say, I always followed up and checked on this building every week, every month, and here it is. And I thank everyone that contributed for this great work.
The isolation ward was dedicated to the memory of the former UFO hospital manager, Mrs. Colleen Fingo Misakulasea Ioane, who passed away in October last year. Fingo's husband Charles and her parents Lofa and Misaka Nui Kulasea were there to witness the special occasion. There are two separate sides to the isolation ward. One side is for the patients needing hospitalization and care, and the other side is the acute intensive care unit for patients on respirators. This part of the unit is designed so that patients can be easily moved for medevac to New Zealand, as per the government's protocols for the care of COVID cases on the island. The COVID response laboratory was officially opened by Minister of Health and Social Services, Honourable Sauni Tongatule. The lab is located on the southwestern side of the hospital grounds, where the COVID drive-through testing is done. The opening of these two facilities is the biggest step yet for the government in its plans to open up borders and return to pre-COVID times, planned for October this year, when there will be no restrictions on travellers and tourists to Niue.
There are no new COVID cases after day 9 tests of the passengers from the last flight. According to the government press release this morning, all the passengers in home isolation returned negative test results yesterday. The one active border case continues to be monitored by health officials. Those passengers who were in home isolation are now cleared to be released today. Home Office MIQ remains closed to all visitors. Niue's national COVID response remains on alert level yellow as there are no community cases and the positive case is contained at the border. Premier Honourable Dalton Tangelangi and the Chancellor of the University of the South Pacific yesterday joined the President and Vice Chancellor of the USB, Professor Paul Aluwalia, to announce that the USB has again ranked highly in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings for 2022.
The Times Higher Education Impact Rankings are the only global performance tables that assesses universities against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, where indicators are carefully calibrated to provide comprehensive and balanced comparisons across 4 broad areas: research, stewardship, outreach, and teaching. Premier Tangelangi congratulated the USB Vice-Chancellor, the staff and the students for their contribution towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. He said that he is excited and pleased to congratulate the university on its inclusion and ranking in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings for 2022. He says that this ranking demonstrates the continuing resilience of our people and shows that our future is in secure hands as USB undertakes the important work of training our future leaders. USB Vice-Chancellor Professor Paul Aluwalia announced the results yesterday, saying that he was also incredibly proud that the university has been recognized for its commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals achievements for the Pacific region. Professor Aluwalia says that these rankings validate the excellence of the institution USB and the resilience of our people, that this is all the more remarkable given that the Times Higher Education is an independent body that judges and benchmarks the USB against global universities. Last year, USB made the Times Higher Education ranking in the top 10% of the universities of the world. The Director of Utilities, Clinton Chapman, is asking the village councils to inform people in the villages not to turn off the electric water pumps located in their villages. Major leaks, slow water pressure, and tampered water pumps have been a cause for concern to this announcement. Here's more on that story. In response to residents reporting no water at Waipapahi yesterday, the staff of the Utilities Department discovered that someone had switched off the power to the water pumps. This morning, the Director of Utilities, Clinton Chapman, asked that the people not touch any of the water infrastructure without first contacting the Department of Utilities. It's understood that 2 water pumps were turned off without permission. Water leaks also continue to be a concern for the Water Division of the Department of Utilities. Last week, while attending to slow water pressure in Tuapa, major leaks were discovered at unoccupied homes at Namukulu. The Department of Utilities are asking the assistance of the village councils to look out for leaks in these unoccupied houses in every village. Some suggesting that perhaps the water should be turned off to those houses where no one is living in them. Meanwhile, the Department of Utilities continue their work on the water contamination incident affecting all villages. The department is awaiting the arrival of more UV treatment equipment, which will be installed in villages. The final selection of the Niue Longbows team to the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham will be confirmed by the end of May, says President of the Niue Longbows, Des Hipa. According to Mr. Hipa, the following list of names was submitted to the Chef de Mission, Tony Edwards, and General Manager Sydney Lui on the 4th of April this year. The men's team includes Stanley Tafatu, Tukala Tangelangi, Vehala Funaki, Keith Papani, Dalton Tangelangi, and Norman Misimesi. And the women's team are Joy Peiro, Lindsay Talangi, Catherine Papani, Lia Liu Mahetau, Bilena Motufuo, and Elizabeth Riretti. The team officials are Bill Vakafi Motufuo, Leone Paquieto, with the coach to be confirmed at a later date.
Des Hipa says that this team will continue with their training sessions until the final team of 10 bowlers will be made official at the end of May. The Niue boxing team in New Zealand has been confirmed for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, but have yet to receive a final confirmation from Niue's national sports governing body, NISCA, according to the team's manager, Lorena Thompson.
The manager for the team, Lorena Thompson, posted on the Niue Island Facebook page last Friday, introducing the 4 selected boxers, which include Xavier Matafa Ikinofo from the villages of Alufi and Mutalo, Dukin Williams from the village of Liku, Travis Taputuetoa from the villages of Mutalo and Alofi, and De Niro Armstrong Powell. On Tuesday evening, Lorena Thompson, together with the boxing team, presented themselves in an online Zoom meeting where the manager Thompson had extended the invitation on the Niue Island Facebook page for the people of Niue, near and far, to come and meet the team and have an understanding of their camp. Lorena Thompson says that they have already begun their camp and have so far been funding this on their own. But to truly compete, she says, at this level and gain entry to Olympic qualifiers, they need support, and they would like to share their fundraising efforts with those who are interested to assist them. BCN News understands that the coach is a 5-star International Boxing Association IBA coach in New Zealand. His name is Master Lolo Heimuli of Balmoral Liga.
The Niue Dental Health Department hosted a spelling bee competition yesterday at the Niue High School Paliasi Hall for children in the age groups year 5 to year 8. Head of Dental Health Leroy Tatui told BCN News that it was a successful event. Here's more on that story. Taking first place for the overall competition was Kylie Tuineo Vakafi in year 6. Second place went to Talitutonu Tohovaka in year 8, and coming in third place was Moana Pita in year 7. Head of Dental Health Clinic Leroy Tatui told BCN News that this is the first event of its kind that the Dental Health Department has hosted.
So we had just over 50 kids that registered for the competition, so overall it was a good turnout. And we targeted year 5 to year 8 students, so kids' turnout was really good, and parents, we were also happy that the parents turned up to support the kids as well. So, yeah.
BCN News was able to ask 2 young girls, Moana Pita and Zoe Tongyavalu, who participated in the competition, to share how they felt about the event.
I actually felt a bit nervous, and I panic a lot when it comes to spelling, because I get scared about if I get the word wrong.
So today when I was spelling, it was pretty hard, but then the first few words were pretty easy.
Mr. Tatui told BCN News that the children and the dental health team are looking forward to next year's spelling bee competition.
We were overwhelmed with the whole competition organizing and just running it. We were glad to have some help, and like I said, this is one of our goals as a department, to reach out and engage with our stakeholders and trying to improve the health status of our children and the public in general. So yeah, overall it was a successful day, so I'm pretty happy for it.
Before we end our news tonight, a friendly reminder that the Hikutavake Show Day, the first show day of the year, will be occurring this Saturday. The village would like to extend an invitation to everyone on the island to come and support their show day. And that is our news bulletin for tonight. Do join us again next Tuesday with Esther Pavihi with our Vangaho Niue bulletin. Until then, wishing you all a safe weekend. Be happy, be kind. Munui na e po.